100 old house styles that no longer exist. Have you ever walked past an old, crumbling building and wondered who once called it home? Once upon a time, these walls echoed with laughter, whispered secrets, and dreams of generations long gone. From crooked timber cottages in medieval Europe to ornate mansions swallowed by vines in the American South, some house styles have simply vanished from our world. Today, we're peeling back the layers of time, exploring 100 old house styles that no longer exist. Each one holds a forgotten story and a glimpse into a world that faded into history. Chapter 1. Ancient Foundations. Let's begin where it all started. Before kings, before cities, before time had written its name in stone. These are the homes of the first dreamers. Builders who shaped shelter from the earth around them. 1. Neolithic longhouse. Imagine a 70-foot-long structure made from timber and thatch, with a fire pit in the middle and smoke drifting up into the night. Whole families, sometimes entire clans, slept side by side. Privacy didn't exist, but survival did. 2. Roman domus. The Roman elite lived in the domus, elegant homes with open courtyards, fountains, and mosaic floors. The front, just a blank wall to the street. All beauty was kept inside, hidden from the outside world. 3. Insulae. For the poor, Roman life meant the insulated apartments of wood and brick, crammed, flammable, unstable. And yet they were home to thousands. Some collapsed without warning, others burned down entirely. 4. Celtic roundhouse. Built in circles to mimic the sun, these homes were made of mud, straw, and wooden frames. The smoke had no chimney, it simply drifted up and out through the thatched roof, leaving everything below coated in soot. 5. Viking hall house. Dark, narrow, and built to withstand the cold winds of the North. Viking hall houses were communal by nature. Meat hung from rafters, smoke curled in the air, and legends were told beside the fire. 6. Mud brick dwellings. In the cradle of civilization, homes were baked in the sun. Lit mud brick structures kept interiors cool during scorching days, but with every heavy rain, the walls melted slowly back into the earth. 7. Ancient Greek oikos. The center of family life in ancient Greece was the oikos, a home built around an open-air courtyard. Women spent most of their lives indoors. Men hosted guests in specially decorated rooms. Everything was about status and structure. 8. Egyptian mastaba homes. Before the pyramids, there were mastabust flat-roofed homes and tombs made of sun-dried brick. The line between a place to live and a place to rest forever was often blurred in ancient Egypt. 9. Early African adobe huts. In sub-Saharan Africa, adobe huts were crafted from mud, dung, and stockwool during the heat of day. Warm at night, the thick walls were not just practical, they were works of survivalist art. 10. Minoan townhouses on the island of Crete. The Minoans built bright homes with indoor plumbing, colorful frescoes, and open terraces. These homes whispered of beauty, culture, and catastrophe before being buried by a volcanic eruption. 11. Indus Valley courtyard houses. Over 4,000 years ago, cities like Mohenjo-daro had homes with private wells and indoor baths. Their drainage systems rivaled those of modern cities until the civilization mysteriously disappeared. 12. Ancient Chinese. In China, the Sihuan formed the core of family life. For buildings, one courtyard, everyone had their place. Grandparents, parents, children, all under one roof. Harmony wasn't just valued, it was built into the walls. From sacred fire pits to sunlit courtyards, these ancient homes weren't just shelters, they were silent witnesses to entire civilizations rising and vanishing. But as time marched forward, people began building homes not just to survive, but to show status, wealth, and power. Welcome to the Middle Ages. Chapter 2. Medieval Marvels in the Middle Ages. How you built your home, told everyone who you were, what you owned, what you feared, and how long you were likely to survive the winter. 1. Maten Bailey. Keep homes perched on man-made mounds. These early medieval fort homes looked down on wooden courtyards called baileys. Quick to build, quick to burn, they were built for defense, not comfort. 2. Watterland Orb cottages, a lattice of woven sticks, smeared with a thick paste of clay, straw, and manure. To us, it sounds primitive, but for peasants, these homes were warm, wind-proof, and miraculously stood for decades. 3. Cruck frame house, with massive curved timbers forming a giant A shape. Cruck houses stood tall like the bones of an ancient beast. Inside, it was dark, smoky, and strangely poetic. 4. Tudor timber frame. The black beams and white infill of Tudor homes still echo through modern architecture. But back then, they were a sign of status. Glass windows, a luxury, and roofs, sometimes made of straw, sometimes of tile-if you could afford it. 5. Norman stone house. After the Norman conquest, stone homes replaced wood. Thick, cold, and fortress-like, these homes were built to last and to intimidate. Comfort came second to control. 6. Peasant hovels. Tiny, single-room shelters with dirt floors and no chimney. Livestock often slept inside. The smell, let's just say history wasn't always romantic. 7. Burgage plot houses. In crowded medieval towns, long narrow plots were handed down for generations. A small home in the front, a garden in the back end. If you were lucky, space for a pig or a few hens. 8. Romanesque farmsteads. Thick stone walls, barrel-vaulted ceilings, and deep-set windows. These homes were sturdy, isolated, and built to endure time and invade. 9. Chaucerera row houses. In the heart of towns, these early town homes were stacked shoulder to shoulder, each one barely wider than a wagon. Upstairs leaned over the street, casting shadows over cobbled roads. 10. Half-timber bird inns. Wood-framed inns with crooked floors and smoky huts. Travelers, traders, and troublemakers shared beds and bread. If these walls could talk, they'd whisper every scandal of the village. 11. Merchant houses. From Lubeck to Bruges, these tall, narrow homes rose like sails along trade ports. Gabled roofs, hidden warehouses, and steep staircases built by those who made their fortunes on the sea. 12. Alpine log chalets. High in the snowy Alps, families built deep-roofed log chalets with wide eaves to keep the snow off. Cozy, practical, and often passed down for centuries, these homes kept hearts warm in the coldest months. As trade routes opened and colonizers set sail, architecture began to shift, shaped by new worlds, new climates, and new dreams. Let's step into the age of exploration. Chapter 3. Colonial experiments in the New World. Homes weren't about style, they were about surviving. But even in the wilderness, beauty crept in, sometimes by accident, sometimes by memory. 1. Spanish colonial adobe. Made from sun-dried mud, adobe homes had thick walls and flat roofs, earth-toned and timeless. They breathed in the desert, hit and exhaled cool air when night fell. 2. French colonial raised cottage. Down by the bayous, the French built cottages on stilts. Rain, floods, insects, they adapted to all of it. Wide porches, steep roofs, and a kind of charm that still echoes in New Orleans today. 3. Dutch colonial gambrel roof house. Think of a barn, roof, 2 slopes, 1 steep, 1 shallow. That was the Dutch gambrel. Inside, low ceilings, efficient spaces, and always a sense of home. For English colonial saltbox, the long, sloped rear roof wasn't just for looks. It cleverly dodged a British tax on two-story homes. Form followed function, and sometimes function fought the crown. 5. German colonial log cabin. Thick logs, dovetail joints, and stone fireplaces. German settlers didn't waste a thing. Their homes were squat, tight, and warm, perfect for brutal winters and quiet prayers. 6. New England colonial. Wooden frames, steep roofs, and a central chimney to heat every room. These homes were somber, functional, and built to face blizzards head-on. You didn't decker. 7. Georgian colonial red brick, white trim, and perfect symmetry. 5 windows wide, 2 rooms deep, everything had its place. Georgian homes were built to impress, even in wild lands. 8. Swedish timber house, painted red with white trim, tucked into forests like fairy tale cabins. Swedish settlers brought their quiet craftsmanship to the woods of Delaware and Pennsylvania. 9. Plantation doggertrot, 2 rooms with an open breezeway in between. The wind passed through like a ghost, cooling the house in humid southern air. It was both shelter and strategy. 10. Cape Cod original, low ceilings, centered chimneys, and small windows to trap heat. These practical one-story homes were built to withstand storms, salt, and time. 11. Backwoods, lean-to shelter logs stacked against a rock face, or planks lashed to trees. These were homes for a night, maybe a week. The frontier didn't wait for carpenters, it demanded creativity. 12. Huguenot refugee house, narrow and vertical, with high ceilings and little ornamentation, built by French Protestants fleeing persecution. These homes carried sorrow in their bricks and resilience in their beams. By the 18th century, the colonies had grown roots, and with them came bold new ideas of independence, industry, an identity written into wood, stone, and glass. Chapter 3. Colonial experiments in the New World. Homes weren't about style, they were about surviving. But even in the wilderness, beauty crept in, sometimes by accident, sometimes by memory. 1. Spanish colonial adobe made from sun-dried mud. Adobe homes had thick walls and flat roofs. Earth-toned and timeless, they breathed in the desert height and exhaled cool air when night fell. 2. French colonial raised cottage. Down by the bayous, the French built cottages on stilts. Rain, floods, insects, they adapted to all of it. Wide porches, steep roofs, and a kind of charm that still echoes in New Orleans today. 3. Dutch colonial gambrel roof house. Think of a barn, roof to slopes, 1 steep, 1 shallow. That was the Dutch gambrel. Inside, low ceilings, efficient spaces, and always a sense of home. 4. English colonial saltbox. The long, sloped rear roof wasn't just for looks, it cleverly dodged a British tax on two-story homes. Form followed function, and sometimes function fought the crown. 5. German colonial log cabin. Thick logs, dovetail joints, and stone fireplaces. German settlers didn't waste a thing. Their homes were squat, tight, and warm, perfect for brutal winters and quiet prayers. 6. New England colonial wooden frames, steep roofs, and a central chimney to heat every room. These homes were somber, functional, and built to face blizzards head-on. You didn't decker, you endured. 7. Georgian colonial red brick, white trim, and perfect symmetry, 5 windows wide, 2 rooms deep, everything had its place. Georgian homes were built to impress, even in wild lands. 8. Swedish timber house, painted red with white trim, tucked into forests like fairy tale cabins. Swedish settlers brought their quiet craftsmanship to the woods of Delaware and Pennsylvania. 9. Plantation dog, 2 rooms with an open breezeway in between. The wind passed through like a ghost, cooling the house in humid southern air. It was both shelter and strategy. 10. Cape Cod original low ceilings, centered chimneys, and small windows to trap heat. These practical one-story homes were built to withstand storms, salt, and time. 11. Backwoods lean-to shelter, logs stacked against a rock face, or planks lashed to trees. These were homes for a night, maybe a week. The frontier didn't wait for carpenters, it demanded creativity. 12. Huguenot refugee house, narrow and vertical, with high ceilings and little ornamentation, built by French Protestants fleeing persecution. These homes carried sorrow in their bricks and resilience in their beams. By the 18th century, the colonies had grown roots, and with them came bold new ideas of independence, industry, and identity, written into wood, stone, and glass. Chapter 4. Renaissance to Rococo. These homes were no longer just shelters. They were stage sets for power, romance, and social status. The walls whispered ambition, and, sometimes, scandal. One Palladian villa inspired by ancient Rome. These villas embraced balance, columns, domes, symmetry, built for thinkers, philosophers, and men of wealth. They didn't just house people, they hosted ideals. 2. Baroque chateau gold trim, curved facades, and spiraling staircases. Every inch was designed to impress, yet most Baroque chateaux were wildly impractical. They leaked, creaked, and cost a fortune to maintain. 3. Italianate townhouse, with tall windows, arched doorways, and romantic iron balconies. These homes felt like poetry carved in stone. They first appeared in Italy, but their elegance spread quickly across Europe and beyond. 4. Mansard roof cottage, named after the French architect Francois Mansart. These roofs created extra living space in the attic, a clever trick for beauty and bureaucracy. 5. Jacobean brick house, a blend of late Tudor and early Renaissance Jacobean houses, curved and coiled, with tall chimneys and twisted staircases. Red brick, carved stone, and the feeling of old money. 6. French farmhouse, soft pastel walls, delicate woodwork, and light flooding through large windows. These country homes felt more like daydreams than buildings. Inside, the wallpaper alone could cost a year's wage. 7. Caribbean Creole cottage, designed for hot climates and heavy rains. These cottages featured high ceilings, open verandas, and lightweight wood. They were born of necessity, but bloomed into a unique island charm. 8. Gothic Revival cottage, pointed arches, steep gables, and dark, moody trim. Gothic Revival was the architectural version of a haunted love letter. These cottages felt romantic, and just a little eerie. 9. Colonial Revival with gables. As settlers looked back on the architecture of their ancestors, they began to build homes with nostalgia baked into the walls. Gables returned. Symmetry returned, so did pride in the past. 10. Georgian flat-roof row home in cities from Boston to London. Row homes rose side by side, tight, proper, and consistent. Flat roofs gave extra space. Brick facades meant order, and the doors, always painted with purpose, But the world was changing fast. As the industrial age dawned, people didn't just want homes, they wanted progress. And the houses they built next, bold, dramatic, and sometimes outrageous. Chapter 5. Victorian Dreams. No era dared to dream like the Victorians. These homes were flamboyant, flawed and unforgettable. Every house was a statement, every trim and turret a whisper of ambition. One Second Empire house, inspired by Napoleon III's Paris. These homes flaunted mansard roofs and iron balconies. It was French glamourite in the middle of Main Street, USA. 2. Folk Victorian. Take simple farmhouse shapes, then dress them up in lace-like trim and fancy. Folk Victorian was like a modest woman borrowing a 3. Gingerbread house, brightly painted, frilled with fretwork, and so whimsical they almost looked edible. These homes weren't subtle, but they sure knew how to smile. 4. Italianate farmhouse, tall windows, arched frames, cupolas on the roof. Italiate homes took old Roman and planted it in the cornfields of Ohio. 5. Queen Anne mansion turrets, wraparound porches, textured siding, stained glass. The Queen Anne was the diva of Victorian architecture never plain. 6. Stick style. Linear wooden sticks decorated the exterior part style. These homes looked like giant woven baskets, or blueprints come to life. 7. Carpenter Gothic. All the spires and arches of Gothic cathedrals just made of wood. These homes looked like tiny haunted churches. Beautiful, and just a bit eerie. 8. Shotgun house. One room behind the next, no hallways. Legend says you could fire a shotgun through the front door. The bullet would go clean out the back. 9. Octagon house, built with 8 sides to maximize sunlight and ventilation. Healthy, maybe. Weird, absolutely. But Victorians adored a good architectural experiment. 10. Railroad cottage, small, quick builds, thrown up near train lines. These weren't built to last, and most didn't. But for a brief moment they sheltered the movement of a nation. 11. Painted ladies, now icons of the city. These multicolored homes were once dismissed as gaudy, but time softened their edges and made them beloved postcards of the past. 12. Boarding houses, creaky floorboards, shared kitchens, thin walls and stories in every corner. Boarding houses were home to dreamers, drifters, and maybe a ghost or two. Transition to Chapter 6 teas. But not even the Victorians could hold back the future. As the 20th century rolled in, design got cleaner, faster, and sometimes colder. A new era was knocking. Chapter 6. Industrial Age Innovation. The world was changing and so were our homes. Mail-order homes, modular parts, and machines revolutionized the way we built and who could afford to build. It was the dawn of mass production, and it made home ownership a possibility for millions. 1. Arts and Crafts Bungalow. Crafted from local materials, the Arts and Crafts Bungalow rejected mass production for handcraft. Simple lines, sturdy stone, and hand-carved wood brought warmth and a personal touch back to home building. 2. Prairie style. Wide overhangs, low profiles, and an integration with the land itself. Frank Lloyd Wright's prairie-style homes blurred the lines between the indoors and outdoors. They looked like they were part of the landscape. 3. American Foursquare. Boxy, symmetrical, and functional. The American Foursquare was the quintessential middle-class home. It's simple, solid, and filled with light, perfect for family life. 4. Craftsman Kit House. In a true feat of convenience, Sears Roebuck sold pre-packaged kit houses, complete with instructions. These homes arrived in pieces and thousands were assembled across America, creating neighborhoods of identical charm. 5. Mission Revival. Inspired by the Spanish colonial missions, these homes featured red tile roofs, stucco walls, and arches that brought the warmth of the Southwest to the rest of the country. They were designed to last. 6. Beaux-Arts Mansion Grand. Classical and ornate Beaux-Arts mansions were meant to showcase the height of social status. Symmetry, columns, and opulent detailing defined this style, taking inspiration from French Neo. 7. Shingle-style coastal house. Shingle-style homes blended into their coastals with sprawling designs and weathered shingles that seemed to grow naturally from the landscape. These homes were meant for seaside living, open, breezy, and casual. 8. Tudor Revival. With steeply pitched roofs, brick exteriors, and leaded windows, Tudor Revival homes looked like they belonged in a storybook. The early versions brought an old-world charm to suburban America. 9. Colonial Revival. The Colonial Revival movement made a comeback, with symmetrical facades, brick exteriors, and the familiar gable roof. It was the home of tradition, resurrecting a sense of the past while embracing the future. 10. Spanish Eclectic. The Spanish Eclectic style brought the romance of Spain's Mediterranean coast to America. With stucco walls, red tile roofs, and ornamental ironwork, these homes embodied a laid-back, yet refined, aesthetic. 11. Minimal traditional home. With the onset of the Great Depression, homes needed to be smaller, simpler, and more affordable. The minimal, traditional style delivered just that: functional homes with no extra frills, perfect for a world looking for efficiency. 12. Dutch Revival cottage. With its gambrel roof, brick or stone facades, and unique Dutch doors, the Dutch Revival cottage revived old-world charm, mixing practicality with aesthetic delight. But the industrial age wasn't just about materials. It was about ideas, new ways of living, new cities, new possibilities. And as we entered the next phase of the 20th century, modernism would take over in a way no one saw coming. Chapter 7. Mid-century movements. These homes felt like the future, but many were poorly made and didn't age well. Some lasted only a few decades before vanishing. It was a time when architecture reflected the hope for progress, but also the quick turn towards disposable living. 1. Streamline Moderne. Inspired by the sleek, streamlined shapes of ocean liners and airplanes, streamlined modern homes featured curved corners, smooth facades, and metal accents. They were futuristic, like a vision of tomorrow, but in concrete and glass. 2. International style home. Flat roofs, large windows, and simple geometric forms. The international style embraced minimalism and function, rejecting ornamentation. These homes were less about charm and more about the clean lines of the modern world. 3. Atomic Ranch House. The Atomic Ranch House. The Atomic Ranch brought the excitement of the nuclear age to suburbia. Low-slung, wide, and filled with large windows, these homes reflected optimism. Unfortunately, the atomic age didn't last forever, but these houses sure tried to. 4. Lustron Steel House. Made of prefabricated steel, Lustron homes were built quickly and meant to be but while they were the perfect solution for a post-war housing shortage, the concept of a metal home didn't quite catch on. 5. Post-war suburban house. After World War II, there was a boom in suburban living, and these houses were the backbone. Small, boxy, and mass-produced, they were built to be affordable, comfortable, and perhaps, most importantly, quickly constructed for a growing family. 6. Split-level home. With the rise of the car culture and suburban sprawl, split-level homes were designed for families who wanted space and convenience. 3 levels, split between living areas, sleeping areas, and a lower-level garage deal for the modern suburban lifestyle. 7. Googie futuristic house. Inspired by the space race and jet age, Googie homes had sharp angles, exaggerated curves, and bold, playful forms. Think rocket shapes, neon lights, and the promise of a flying car in your driveway. 8. Cape Cod revival. After World War II, the Cape Cod revival style made a comeback. Simple, with steep gabled roofs, dormer windows, and wooden shingles, these homes provided the comfort of the traditional with a slightly modern twist. 9. Storybook Ranch, a fairy tale dream come to life. These whimsical homes often featured exaggerated roofs, charming brickwork, and rounded doorways meant to look like something out of a storybook. Quaint and quirky, they brought a touch of fantasy to suburbia. 10. Minimal ranch, a simpler take on the traditional ranch. Minimal ranch homes focused on clean lines, open floor plans, and a connection to nature. Everything was pared down to essentials, creating an efficient, no-frills living experience. 11. Concrete brutalist house. Concrete, steel, and glass. Brutalism wasn't pretty, but it was bold. These homes used raw concrete and angular shapes to reflect an industrial no-nonsense aesthetic. They were ahead of their time, maybe even too much so. 12. Mid-century modern, with open spaces, flat roofs, large windows, and minimal detailing, mid-century modern homes brought the outdoors in. It was about form following function, no frills, just sleek simplicity and the spirit of modern life. The future seemed to be unfolding, but not all of these homes survived the test of time. As we moved into the 1970s, new forces shaped architecture, setting the stage for another transformation in how we live. Chapter 8. The Lost and Forgotten. Some houses were built on hope, others were built in desperation. All of them tell a story now slowly disappearing into dust. 1. Moorish revival. Inspired by the rich, intricate designs of Spain and North Africa, Moorish revival homes featured sweeping arches, ornate tile work, and intricate but their exotic elegance never gained widespread appeal in the West, and many of these architectural gems faded into obscurity. 2. Egyptian revival. With towering columns and dramatic stylized shapes, the Egyptian revival style was all about grandeur, invoking the mystery and power of ancient Egypt. Yet despite the fascination with Egyptology in the 19th century, these homes never became a mainstream trend. 3. Bohemian chalet house. A blend of quirky artistry and rustic charm, Bohemian chalet homes were meant to evoke the free-spirited vibe of alpine retreats. Yet their eccentricity and impracticality meant they never quite took hold, and many were quickly abandoned. 4. Caravan homes. Before modern RVS, there were caravan homes, rolling temporary structures often built from wood and metal. Once a symbol of adventure and freedom, they slowly faded as more permanent homes took their place on the road. 5. Floating river shacks. Built by fishermen and travelers, these homes were literally floating, constructed on rafts or pontoons to survive floods and river currents. Their unconventional nature meant they were always on the brink of disappearing, and today they're largely forgotten. 6. Mine-in-town barracks. Constructed to house the laborers working in America's mining boom, these simple, utilitarian barracks were not built for longevity. Once the mines closed, the barracks often crumbled into the past-forgotten relics of hard work and struggle. 7. Tenement row homes. Crowded, cramped, and cheap to build, tenement row homes were a quick fix for the housing needs of the Industrial Revolution. While they served as essential shelter for millions, their squalid conditions and short lifespan often left them as a mark of poverty and, ultimately, erased. 8. Trolley suburb cottages. In the early 20th century, some suburbs were designed specifically for commuters to the city, with quaint little cottages near trolley lines. But as cars took over and the need for public transport faded, these cottages became impractical, leaving a forgotten footprint in history. 9. World War II era Quonset huts. Quickly thrown together for wartime use, Quonset huts were made of corrugated steel and designed to be easily assembled. They were intended to be temporary shelters, but some survived long after the war. Yet, most were eventually replaced or abandoned, remembered only in photos and stories. 10. Underground dugouts. On the frontier, practicality ruled. Homes were often dug into the earth, offering shelter from the harsh climate. These subterranean dwellings provided warmth and safety, but most were abandoned as new towns grew and above-ground homes became more desirable. 11. Folding prefab house. In an effort to provide quick housing during the 1940s, folding prefab homes were designed to be easily transported and assembled. They were innovative, but their temporary design and lack of appeal left them to be overshadowed by more lasting alternatives. 12. Concrete dome experiments. In the 20th century, experimental architects played with the idea of concrete domes as a way to create durable, cost-effective homes. Unfortunately, their massive, impersonal structures never quite captured the public's imagination. Many of these homes were left to deteriorate. For some, these homes were the last hope for survival. For others, they were simply a dream that couldn't quite hold up. Now, they remain hidden in the cracks of history awaiting rediscovery, but mostly forgotten. These homes may be gone, but their stories still echo through time. If you felt even a little tug of nostalgia, or learned something new about the way we once lived, don't forget to leave a like, drop a comment below, tell me which house style you'd bring back if you could. And if you want more forgotten chapters of history, hit that subscribe button. Here on Faded Into World, we uncover what time tried to erase, one story at a time.